Welcome, everyone. I'm Heather Frechette-Crowley, the Director of Product Marketing here at ProSites, and I want to thank you for taking the time to join us for today's webinar, the top 10 trends and recommendations for dentistry and marketing in 2017. For those of you who may not be aware, this webinar is actually based on the content from our recently published white paper of the same name. And that white paper can be found in the resources section of ProSites.com. So I invite you to download that as well. Before we get started, I want to go over a few housekeeping items. First, all attendees are currently in listen-only mode. So if you have a question throughout the presentation, please submit it via your dashboard, and I'll have the opportunity to review those and address them at the end. I also want to let you know that the webinar is being recorded, and you should receive a link to that recording within the next 48 hours. To get started, here's a quick review of the agenda. I will spend time on each of the 10 trends that are covered. I'm also going to talk about associated recommendations for ways that your practice can respond to each of these trends. And as you can see, it is a full agenda, so I will spare you me reading through each of these lines, and we'll jump right in. The first trend really goes over a general decrease in the level of trust that the market has in authority and experts in general. You may be thinking, okay, I get that, but how does that impact me? As a doctor or a healthcare professional, you're seen as an expert. So if your messages are automatically being cast to the wayside simply because of your expert status, it's going to be difficult to reach prospective patients. One example of this trend in action on a larger scale is the Pew Research study that showed while 87% of scientists in the American Association for the Advancement of Science believe that climate change is in fact linked to human activity, only 50% of respondents from the general public believe that's the case. So how do you, as a dentist, overcome this trend? The key is to differentiate yourself from other experts who may simply spout data. You want to carve a niche as a doctor who listens, and the best way to do this is really to engage in social listening yourself through your social media channels. Conducting simple surveys is a great way to engage your followers and to really understand what their topics of interest are. As you do this, I want you to remember that what you do with the information you gather is as important as the questions that you ask. So once you understand what your followers are looking for, it's important to address that. And this can be done by writing a blog article on a particular topic. For example, if followers are interested in laser teeth whitening, go ahead and author a piece on the pros and cons of that service. Just be sure to close the loop so that they feel heard. You'll want to post a follow-up with the actions that you're taking as a result. For instance, if patients expressed a need for earlier office hours and your practice is adding early morning hours 2 days a week to accommodate that request, go ahead and include a post letting your followers know that you listened and will now be opening at 7 a.m. on Tuesdays and Thursdays, for example. The key here is really to circle back. The second trend definitely complements the first. Whereas people are trusting experts and authority less, they're also relying more on what they read on social media. While social media can certainly be a way to catch trending stories, part of the issue is that your online behaviors actually factor into what information you see. For example, the more I like or follow posts or organizations that express liberal political views, the more of this type of information I see. And this can lead me to believe that these viewpoints are more popular than they may actually be. It can also cause me to just assume that everyone is of the same mindset that I am. It's really a self-fulfilling prophecy. It snowballs so that I rarely see conflicting points of view in my feed. And this activity is what we call confirmation bias. Additionally, not all of the information on social media is accurate. And often people share and like content based solely on the title without vetting the source or really, in most cases, even reading the content. A perfect example of this is how the Associated Press article on the potential attributes of flossing was really blown out of proportion. So if you recall, what started as a story from a reputable source quickly morphed into essentially an anti-floss movement that was really easily bought into by most people because, quite frankly, it validated their existing opinions. So for people who didn't like flossing to begin with, this was really a dream come true. So how do you break this cycle? First and foremost, be active on social media so that you have the opportunity to weigh in before opinions are formed. You want to start by creating a following. So announce the fact that you're on social media to your patients via existing newsletters or email campaigns, certainly office signage. And go ahead and incentivize patients to share information about your practice on social media. Using the hashtag of your practice name is a great way to keep track of that. You also want to be sure to respond to community complaints and compliments in a timely manner. So you should use your social presence to really create a dialogue with your followers. You want that back and forth there. And as we touched on in the first trend, the best way to engage followers is to ask for their feedback and their opinions. Do they think your office hours are convenient? Are they maybe looking for different magazines in the waiting room? Whatever it is you ask, just remember again that the key is to follow up with those followers to show your online community that you are in fact listening. Now, with over 90% of consumers today using search engines to find local businesses, where you rank is more important than ever, which leads us to the third trend. SEO success depends on Google local search and reviews. When someone searches for dentist near me or dentist in my town, the top 3 or more best reviewed practices appear on a map that is located directly on that search engine results page. What this means is that your online patient reviews are playing a larger role in determining your ranking. So that all factors in. And for those of you, just in case you may be thinking, you know, I get more of my patients from referrals, this really isn't a big deal for my practice, I just want to call out a dental economics report. They found that 43% of people who receive a personal recommendation will still actually look online to judge for themselves before reaching out to make an appointment. So it really behooves you to make it easy for your practice to be found online. And there are some basic things that you can do, such as ensuring that your NAP data, your name, address, and phone number, are updated on all website listings. It's also important to remove any duplicate listings that may be hanging out there with old or inaccurate phone numbers or addresses, because those are going to negatively impact your ranking. You should also really encourage satisfied patients to leave reviews on sites like Google and Yelp, and certainly your practice's reviews page right on your website. That's the most convenient way for them. We also recommend enlisting the help of SEO experts to ensure that your content is optimized for the keywords that you want to rank for. So trend 4, it's no surprise here, right? Everything is going mobile. If you take a look at these stats for just a second, you'll see that the vast majority of Americans use some type of mobile device, either a smartphone or a tablet, and you really need to ensure that your website provides a great user experience across devices. And when we're looking at creating that user experience, a number of factors come into play, including load times, images that automatically resize, forms that can be easily completed from a mobile device. Those sorts of factors all come into play. Essentially, you should ensure that the user experience is as smooth on a mobile device as it would be on a desktop computer. And this is particularly important when you think of the fact that over half of your prospective patients are visiting your site from a mobile device. So you want to make a great first impression, and this is really an easy way to do that. The next trend covers video content and how it really is becoming necessary to engage your patients. Today, when we want to know how something is done, we generally go to YouTube, whether it's finding out how to unclog your drain or looking at how braces are actually applied. Video is a great visual communicator. And as you can see by looking at these stats, it's also one in which the popularity is growing. YouTube videos are growing 70% year over year. Really interesting, Facebook videos receive over 1 billion views per day. You can tell that it's really resonating. Now, there are different ways that you can incorporate video into your online marketing strategy. A number of doctors have created their own library of YouTube videos, which can be embedded on your website and shared via social media. If you work with a dental-specific website provider like ProSites, they most likely have a number of educational videos that you can choose from to host directly on your site. I know that's a benefit that we offer our clients. It's important to remember, though, that really whichever method you choose, be sure to include a strong call to action at the end so that you're able to get some conversion out of this type of video outreach. And don't miss the opportunity to reuse that information in different formats, like social media posts and blog articles. Don't think that you always have to come up with something new from scratch. It's a great way to reuse information. Now, on the heels of video content, it's no surprise that visual platforms are gaining traction as well, particularly among younger patients. While Facebook certainly still has the largest audience with over 1 billion global users, a number of other visually focused platforms are also gaining followers, particularly among those between the ages of 16 and 34. These include networks like Snapchat, Pinterest, and Instagram. What once was used only for personal social outlets really are becoming business-oriented as well. So what this means really depends on your target audience. It may mean branching out and adding a social presence on one of these visual platforms in addition to your existing Facebook and Twitter profiles. I certainly don't recommend moving away from Facebook, but it could mean branching out. Just remember that the best way to engage with patients is to be on the platforms that they use. You can even ask patients directly which social media outlets they use regularly, and then go ahead and alter your marketing strategy accordingly. moving on to trend 7, this probably doesn't come as a surprise to some of you, but dentists are relying more today on outsourced marketing. As your space becomes more competitive, doctors are looking for different ways to expand their online marketing efforts. According to a recent Hanover research report, just over half of the dentists surveyed use an online marketing provider and actually plan to increase their marketing budget in the next 3 years. So what that really indicates is that regardless of your geographic location, to keep pace with your competitors, outsourcing to a dental-specific online marketing provider makes sense. It definitely gives you access to a wider set of services, more experience than you would have if you relied solely on an in-house resource. And as with most things tech-related, interest in healthcare technology is also increasing. In industries across the board, we've really seen technology disrupt the standard business as usual. And think about the way Uber has changed the transportation market. Now, while dentistry hasn't been disrupted as significantly yet, there certainly is interest in things like remote checkups and really anything under that telemedicine and telehealth umbrella. So while you may not be prepared to begin offering remote checkups tomorrow, you can certainly help your practice stand out by highlighting cutting-edge equipment or advanced services that you provide. And again, social media is a great way to announce new offerings and really generate excitement among your followers. On to trend 9, the formation of more group practices. Now, a few reasons for this trend. First, the average amount of debt that a new dentist faces has risen 66% in the past 10 years. So when you combine this with the increased competition in the marketplace and the rising cost of equipment, joining forces with other doctors really becomes an attractive option. So even if you are in an existing practice, whether it be a solo practice or multiple doctors, you can still leverage this trend by capitalizing on that general entrepreneurial spirit and drive of recent grads. And this could be a great way to staff additional locations, or again, another way to expand your office hours without adding hours to your day specifically. Finally, trend number 10, patients are no longer just patients, they're consumers, and they are increasingly exhibiting selective behavior. This means that they're looking at their choices more closely and weighing their options. As I'm sure you know, budgets also play a role in patient decisions. Preventative care is no longer seen as a priority, and where you may have once competed only with other dental practices in your area, you now come up against everything else that's demanding your patient's attention and wallet. Another aspect of this trend is consumers' obsession with sharing, some may say with oversharing, online. And one survey found that 32% of people have shared negative experiences online in an effort to sway family and friends. I would argue that that number is actually probably higher. So one way to overcome this is to build strong patient relationships. Be a source of information. Really prioritize patient experience by delivering great customer service at every touch point, including your online presence. This also is going to help to establish an ongoing relationship with your patients that most products alone can't cultivate. So we've certainly covered a lot today. As a reminder, the 2017 Dental Marketing Trends and Recommendations White Paper is available in the resources section of ProSites.com, along with a number of other great pieces of content and on-demand webinars, including the definitive guide to online marketing for dentists. So I recommend that you go and download this paper to really dig into some more information. I'll now take any questions that have come in. If you can just give me a moment. I see that a few have come in. I just want to pull them up. Great. So the first question, is this information as relevant for rural markets as it is for more urban environments? And what would you do different in a rural environment? So that's a great question. And one of the things that we found really across the board is people, regardless of their geographic location, are on social media. You know, depending on your competitive landscape, I think that would help to determine how aggressive you want to be on social media. But regardless of if you're in a highly competitive area or really just moderately competitive, I think building a strong relationship with your patients is going to serve you in the long run. So being on social media is a great way to engage patients year-round, which is obviously going to make it easier for you to promote those kind of optional services such as teeth whitening, things of that nature. It really helps to create a stickier environment, if you will, where it's more difficult for patients to kind of break off that relationship. So question, what are good topics to write about as a dentist? Well, certainly anything dental related. You know, as I said, I would start by really asking your patients, what is it they want to hear about? Certainly it's simple to create an online poll on Facebook and just see if they're looking at tips to help their children brush regularly. That's something great that you can provide them with. They may just be interested in general information about standard services such as a root canal, things that definitely have some fear associated with them. Really just general information, I think, is helpful, but certainly reach out to patients, ask them what their interests are specifically. That's going to allow you to, again, create that niche as the dentist that listens. Now that the competition is so high, does it even make sense to be on social media, or would it be better to look for new ways? So I think that kind of dovetails with the first question that came in a little bit, which is, social media makes sense really regardless of where you are. There was a survey done that I think the average American spends over 90 minutes a day on social media. So if you're not taking advantage of that, you're really missing a direct inroad to your patients and to prospective patients. So I would say certainly take advantage of that. In terms of asking, would it be better to look for new ways, I think that definitely a multi-prong approach is going to cover your bases. So certainly social media, definitely don't undersell the importance of providing great customer service in the office as well. Reach out to your patient base. See where they are on social media, if they're on some of the newer visual platforms like Pinterest, etc. And really, just that helps you to be able to connect with them directly. So again, I would not simply put all of your eggs in the social media basket per se, but I definitely would include that as a strong component in your online marketing strategy. Great. So it looks like those are all of the questions that have come in. So if you've been waiting, please feel free to enter that via your dashboard. Again, I do just want to let you all know that we have a really broad resources section on ProSites.com. That includes on-demand webinars, blog posts, as well as a number of white papers with really great actionable information for you. Again, thank you so much for your time. If you do have any questions, please feel free to reach out via our website or the number that's on your screen. And I believe that a short survey will populate as soon as this deck closes. So again, thank you so much for your time. And if you have any questions that you think of after the fact, please feel free to reach out. Thank you so much.